Welcome to Life Lean In, a podcast that brings you biblical insight and tested tips on living your life to its fullest potential while leaning into the influence you've been given. And now, your host, Pastor Dan Smith.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to Life Lean In.
Yep.
This is episode number 35, and honestly, this is a teaser of sorts because we're going into a season coming this fall at New Life Church where we're going to do a series of messages called Asking for a Friend. Mm-hmm. What does that mean? You were even confused by it.
I was thinking like in the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire idea of phone a friend. I thought it was that. And I was like,
phone a friend.
I was like, this message series is lame. That's a terrible title. And then I got a text in a life group I'm in that a mom said, say that someone is very behind in their reading and is confused on what chapters we're on, just asking for a friend. And I was like,
it all makes sense now.
Yep.
So you don't want to ask for yourself. You don't want to admit that you want to ask the question, you actually want to know the answer to the question that you're asking. So you're asking for a friend. Mm-hmm. So here it is. I'm asking for a friend whose coffee looks better and more delicious. We've got the perfectly black, not sugared, not creamed coffee of my preference. And so asking for a friend, what on your chart, on the chart of coffees, is your desirable
what color do you want it?
Color?
The lighter the better.
Caramely?
Uh-huh.
Caramely looking? Is that the right one?
Okay,
okay. So seriously though.
Yeah.
We're teasing, here's the deal. We are teasing the series that we're going to do this fall at New Life Church called Asking for a Friend, where we're going to address big questions, huge questions that people are asking.
And that I would argue to say, in general, the church is not talking about.
Correct. Mm-hmm. So we're going to dive into it. We also know that there might be other questions that your friends are asking that we might not have time to address in a service. Otherwise, we'll be doing it forever, and that's fine. But we want to give you the opportunity to ask questions for a friend now. Mm-hmm. And so you can even begin submitting questions to the comments. You can respond to the emails that we send up. If you're a subscriber of this podcast, Life Lean In, we send out emails every week, sharing the content with you. Yeah. And man, wherever you digest this content, man, you can share it, comment.
Right.
You can ask for a friend the questions that you really want the answers to. And in the next couple weeks, as we go into some of the other topics that we already have planned to talk about, man, we're going to answer some of those questions that your friends are asking.
Right. And I think the best thing about this series is one thing I love that you said in church one time is I think we were talking about sex in church. And, we have kids starting in 6th grade that are in the auditorium with us.
Yep.
And you said, this may feel uncomfortable, but we're either talking about it here or they're talking about it on the bus.
Right.
So where do you want them getting their information from?
Yep, exactly.
And so these questions that when I finally understood the series, as it obviously took me a while, these questions they make me very uncomfortable because, I didn't grow up talking about this stuff in church. And as they do make you uncomfortable, where do you want to be getting the truth from? From the Bible and from Jesus's teaching, or do you want to be getting it from, maybe outside voices that don't have that foundation, or where do you want your kids hearing about it from? Mm-hmm. So as we dive into those hard topics.
Which is a great point. Even if, man, your friend that's asking the question might even be your kids. Mm-hmm. And you might even you might be wondering, like, how do I answer this question?
Yeah.
These kids are asking me these questions. I don't know how to answer it. Man, you send us those questions and we're going to answer them. We're going to help you with them. But here's the deal. I love this. We're going to give you some examples of questions that people have already asked. A question like, is it really a good idea or not a good idea to talk about religion and politics at a party or a family gathering? Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to answer that question because, my personal opinion is everything else is boring.
So you are going to answer
I would love to talk about religion and politics anytime you hang out with me, because here's the deal. I don't really care how big your fish is. I know it's bigger than what you or it's smaller than what you
than what you
actually
say
say.
it is.
Or that golf, round you just had that was amazing. You shot in the 60s, but it was really in the 80s. But here's
Hey, some people really do shoot in the 60s.
but man,
just not me.
religion and politics, man, there's so much dynamic. It affects us all. And so why not talk about things that are really important to talk about? And so that's what we're doing.
And I had a friend come to me at church on Sunday saying, I'm reading through the Bible with my kid, and they were asking me these questions about the creation story, and I don't know the answers. So I said, well, why don't you just wait and ask Pastor Dan on Sunday? But the same thing happened to me. I'm reading through the Bible, a kid's version with Harper, and she says, Mommy, do you think Grandpa Bob, who passed away 2 years ago, do you think Grandpa Bob is friends with Adam and Eve?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I have those same questions. So one of my questions to ask
So
our friend,
our 5-year-old daughter, Harper, was asking for a friend.
right.
Does my dad, who passed away a few years ago, does he know Adam and Eve in heaven?
Mm-hmm.
Great
Well,
question.
And going further than that.
And I bet some of you want to know the answer.
Yeah.
So we're actually going to answer that question
Yeah.
in the coming weeks.
I mean, I was going to say, going further than that, do you know the people in earth in heaven? Will you know your spouse? Will you know your kids?
Yeah.
Those are all questions that I think some of us really do have. What are some other ones?
So here's a question, a huge question. What should a Christian do or think about abortion?
Ooh.
Should Christians be conservative when it comes to things like weed?
It's a hot topic right now.
Is prayer real? Man, can we actually pray, and can we change God's mind?
Yeah.
Will he act on what we're asking him to do? Man, here's a question. It seems a little crazy, but I know a lot of people are asking it. If you watch the news, if you read the news, you have all these people who are, even the FBI and CIA, I don't even know all the different forms of government, but say that they've seen UFOs.
So you're talking about
So
MIB.
does
Men
the
in Black.
Bible, Men in Black, yeah.
Yeah.
Does the Bible allow for the possibility of aliens being real?
Or if you watch Stranger Things, you may have these questions.
Asking for a friend, right?
Right.
Like, should Christians be against war? The Bible says to not kill, to not murder. What does that mean?
Right.
Like, retaliation is a sin. Jesus said if someone slaps you on the right cheek, turn the other cheek also, or pray for those who persecute you, who harm you, who hurt you. Go the extra mile. Like, what does the Bible say about war?
Yeah.
What does it say about military? What does it say about police and like all these types of things? There are so many questions, and here's the deal. Don't be afraid to ask them. Man, you're asking for a friend. So if you want to submit a question via email, the best way to submit these questions is info@newlifekzoo.com. info@newlifekzoo.com. You can submit them via email. If you are a subscriber of this, man, you can just reply to the weekly emails that we send to you, and we'll get those. Man, you can submit a comment. Man, if you're not afraid to say, hey, I'm asking for a friend,
Right.
but I really want to know, and you want to just put it in the comments, whether it's on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube where we put these. I don't know if you can comment on Spotify or Apple. So
I don't
if you're
think so.
if you're a person who kind of digests this content by Spotify or Apple Podcasts,
Use that
man,
email.
use the email info@newlifekzoo.com, or hit us up on our
Yeah.
Facebook pages, whatever it is. Man, we would love to know your questions, the questions that you're asking for a friend. And we're not just going to wait until this fall to talk about these things
Yeah.
at New Life Church.
Start
We're
talking
gonna
about some of
we're
them
gonna
now.
dive into some of those big ones, but every week for the next several weeks in our podcast, we're gonna try to answer one of your questions. So
Yeah.
bring them on.
Yep.
What's your question? What's your friend's question? And we're gonna dive into it. We can't wait to do it, because here's the deal: nobody's perfect. We're all in process.
Yep.
We're trying to figure this thing out, and we're not afraid to talk about the raw and the real. We're not going to be afraid to talk about some deep things, questions that your friend has that we know you have too.
Yeah.
And we're going to do it together. So never stop learning, never stop growing, and keep leaning in. We'll see you next time.